Welcome, everyone. This is a special meeting of Truro Town Council for Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, with one agenda item today before we go into our Committee of the Whole meeting. Are there any changes, omission, or deletions to our agenda today?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Fleming. Any questions or discussions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, agenda approved. Okay, now we're going to go on to item number 2, NCCCS governance. Mr. Dolter, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Nova Scotia Civic Centre Society, the NSCCS, was originally established to oversee the operations of the Rath Eastlink Community Centre, also known as the REC. In recent years, the Society's activities have expanded beyond the REC and to include additional community facilities and initiatives. While these efforts were well intended and aimed at broader community engagement, concerns have emerged regarding this expanded role, and it is felt that the growth of the Society's mandate needs to be backed by a clear and transparent business case. Without this, there is an increased risk to the financial and operational stability of the REC, a key community asset jointly owned by the municipalities of Colchester and the town of Truro. Following careful consideration, both municipal councils have made the difficult but necessary decision to dismiss the current community board members of the NSCCS. This decision is not based on the actions or performance of any individual member. Rather, it reflects a strategic need for renewed focus on governance, financial oversight, and contractual clarity. To support this transition, it is recommended the Town Council approve 4 new community members to be part of an interim board for a 1-year term. These individuals will work alongside the municipal representatives from the town and county to lead a comprehensive review of the Society's activities and guide the development of a sustainable governance framework moving forward. This restructuring aims to strengthen accountability and transparency while preserving the community value and the continued success of the REC. So, Madam Mayor, the proposed motion is be resolved that Town Council revoke the appointments of the people who are currently the council-appointed community member directors of the Nova Scotia Civic Centre Society, and those are the town representatives, and appoint the following 4 community members as town representatives: Mr. Ron Meach, Ms. Tracy Unger, Mr. Alan Grant, and Ms. Stephanie Jones to the Board of Directors for a 1-year term effective immediately.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dolter. You heard the motion, Council. A motion has been made. I'm calling for someone to move that motion. Councillor Fleming, seconded by Councillor McGrath. Any discussion, Council? Thank you. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of approving the motion, please signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, motion is approved. Thank you very much, Councillor, and thank you very much, Mr. Dolter, for your work. Thank you. This now brings us to the end of our special meeting for today. I'm calling this meeting adjourned at 4:03. This is adjourned. Thank you very much. Now, moving on. So once again, welcome and thank you for joining us today for Truro Town Council's Committee of the Whole meeting for Thursday, May the 22nd, 2025. I'd like to commence with the land acknowledgement before we begin our meeting today. I, Kathy J. Henton, Mayor for the town of Truro, acknowledge we are Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people where we live, work, and play. We acknowledge the peace and friendship treaties and recognize we are all treaty people. Nova Scotia has 52 African Nova Scotian communities throughout the region, and African Nova Scotians for generations experience inequality due to systemic racism. Their distinct culture has greatly enriched our province for over 400 years, and we are better for it and proudly celebrate their heritage and history. We give thanks to the elders and knowledge keepers. We have a full agenda today. Council, the first item is the approval of the agenda. So I would like to call for a motion to approve that agenda. Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Pryor. All in favor? Okay. All contrary minded? Motion approved. The next item is the approval of the minutes from the draft minutes of the whole minutes of March the 20th, 2025. And is there someone who will approve that, make that motion? Councillor Fleming, seconded by, I'm looking to the left. Deputy Mayor, thank you very much. Any questions? All in favor? Motion approved. Thank you very much. Item number 3 is our Downtown Territorial Partnership is having a presentation today. And we're looking for our Executive Director of Downtown Territorial Partnership, Sarah Bell. If you could come forward. Sarah Bell Delory and Kim Moreau, the FBM consultants, in chambers today, and they're going to be speaking about the Inglis Place study. Please have a seat and just push the button and turn your microphone and speak as close to that as you can. And the red light is on, so whenever you're ready, please go forward.
I believe it's this one. Oop. Another one. There we go. Good afternoon, Mayor Hinton and members of the council. Sarah Bell Delory, Executive Director of the Downtown Toronto Partnership, and I have with me Kim Molino from FBM. If you remember last year, I came and I asked for support to do a study and to see how viable it is to make Inglis Place pedestrian only temporary 1 weekend per month during the summer months, and we're here to present the findings of that study. So I'm gonna let Kim talk about that first, and then I'll present on some of the ideas that we have if this was to go through. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having us today. My name is Kim Molino. I'm a planner with FBM. And today I'm representing Downtown Toronto Partnership to present our findings on the Inglis Place pedestrianization impact study. Our agenda today is going to cover the project background and introduction, provide some insights from case studies and best practices, present the results of our public and business surveys, present the estimated retail impact on the businesses within our trade area study, provide a conclusion, and finally allow some time for questions. So the core purpose of this project is to provide a rationale for a pedestrian-only street pilot on Inglis Place. The project aims to temporarily close Inglis Place vehicles 1 weekend per month, starting in the summer of 2025. And to be clear, with this project and this presentation, all we're asking for is the summer of 2025, 1 weekend per month. During these closures, the street would be transformed into a pedestrian walkway, hosting events and programs designed to support local businesses and foster a vibrant downtown. This temporary intervention offers valuable benefits. It allows us to test pedestrianizing streetscapes on a small scale and as proof of concept for potentially longer or even more frequent closures in the future. It's a cost-effective way to explore ideas and manage change. And crucially, this pilot aligns with the town's municipal planning strategy. Within that strategy, there's several goals that aim for a more walkable and pedestrian-oriented downtown, and we've outlined several of those in our full report. Here you can see a map of the study area. So looking at Inglis Place, it itself is a one-way local street, approximately 180 meters in length. It serves as a significant downtown hub for local businesses. Truro, as an overall town, has a walk score of 36 out of 100, and that's very low. And that means that the town is, most people rely on personal vehicles to get around, to run errands in their daily lives. In contrast, Inglis Place has a walk score of 93 out of 100, and that's for all the businesses along that street. So this means the area is already highly walkable. It indicates readiness to shift away from vehicle dominance, if only for 1 weekend per month for one summer. And as a segue into our case studies, I just wanted to use this quote, and it is from the National League of Cities, who have done lots of studies on pedestrianization. And it says, one of the things that is most unique about pedestrian zones is that they're equally suited to both very large and very small cities. So just because Truro is a small town, it doesn't mean that it can't take on a project like this. Our full report looked at 5 case studies. Today I'm going to outline 3 of them for you. First is Water Street Pedestrian Mall in St. John's, Newfoundland. This project was initially introduced in 2020 as a response to the economic challenges of COVID-19. It aimed to boost downtown businesses and create a safe outdoor space, and since it has become an annual event. So that street is closed all summer long, and they have been doing ongoing surveys to gauge public and business support. So in 2021, 57% of surveyed businesses reported attracting new customers, and businesses directly within the zone reported increased sales and visibility. Over 68% of survey respondents believed this project benefited the downtown overall. Next, I'll talk about the Argyle Streetscape pilot. And to be clear, this is not the Argyle Streetscape shared streets that we see now with the permanent infrastructure. This is a pilot that took place in 2015. So it was designed to support local businesses during the construction of the Nova Centre, enhancing the pedestrian experience. And this successful pilot eventually was made permanent, as we all know now. During the pilot, the Halifax Business Commission reported an average daily pedestrian count of 3,575 people, and that was a huge upturn from what they were experiencing prior to that. Thirdly, I'll talk a bit about Summer at the Centre. It takes place on Main and McLeod Street in Spruce Grove, Alberta. I spoke with one of the organizers of this event, and they spoke very highly of it. It's called Summer at the Centre. It's annual street closures. They hold markets and events, and they prioritize live entertainment, community activities, and providing booths and marketing for the local businesses there. So over 4 markets, they've attracted over 10,000 attendees, and on average, the downtown businesses saw a 5% increase in sales. So just to quickly hit on some best practices from all the case studies we looked at, I want to highlight that developing methods for collecting data and measuring success is important, such as taking attendance counts and tracking sales. Business engagement and inclusivity is key, as it offers businesses opportunities to take part, even if they're not directly located on Inglis Place. And tailoring event programming to a wide range of audience, children, adults, people of all ages and abilities. So a significant part of this study involved gathering feedback from the community and businesses. We conducted 2 separate surveys. The public survey was open from November 2024 to January 2025 and received 622 responses. Its purpose was to gauge support, understand programming preferences, and identify concerns. The business survey ran for a month in January within the Downtown Truro Partnership Network, and received approximately 45 responses. The public response was overwhelmingly positive. 87 respondents were either very supportive or somewhat supportive of a pedestrian pilot on Inglis Place. Similarly, 87% indicated they would be very likely or somewhat likely to attend. The vast majority of respondents, 97%, live in Colchester County, with 63% in the town of Truro. Further, 89% reported visiting downtown Truro on either a daily or weekly basis, indicating that the feedback is coming from residents who are highly connected to the downtown. While 33% of public respondents had no major concerns, the most commonly cited issues were loss of parking, traffic or parking congestion on surrounding streets, and accessibility challenges related to mobility and accessing services. So when asked how people typically travel downtown, 78% indicated that they drive. This highlights the current reliance on personal vehicles and helps explain why these parking concerns are prominent. Also importantly, 90% of respondents have visited a pedestrian-only street, and they gave several ideas for programming choices, and the top 3 were live music and performances, food vendors, and markets. Our business survey included responses from businesses on both Inglis Place and elsewhere in downtown. The charts that you'll see on the screen visually represent the level of support from first, all businesses that responded to the survey, and second, Inglis Place businesses that responded to the survey. So 58% of all respondents were very supportive, with 18% very opposed, 7% somewhat opposed, and 17% neutral. The Inglis Place respondents were slightly less supportive, but also more were neutral, and more would like more information on the project before agreeing to take part. From the business survey results, the main concerns from these businesses were they very much mirror those of the public, and they're related to mobility and accessibility. Conversely, the anticipated benefits also include increased foot traffic, increased spending, and an improved streetscape environment. So people didn't only list their concerns about this, they also listed suggestions on how these things could be mitigated. So some of these included suggestions to support a wider downtown benefits outside of Inglis Place businesses through strong promotion, providing alternative adequate parking, especially accessible spots, clear communication on street closures and timing, and promoting all the downtown businesses. One other thing to note is some of the suggestions that the public gave on addressing challenges. So some of these include introducing shuttles, ensuring inclusive pathways where people with strollers and wheelchairs can easily get through the street, providing more accessible parking, improving communication and signage, and it was also noted that involving local businesses is crucial in this. Finally, we had done a retail impact analysis. Part of this was looking at a 10-minute walking radius and a 10-minute driving radius from Inglis Place. Our findings, the full findings can be found in the report where it breaks everything down of how we got these numbers, but based on the trade area analysis and applying reasonable uplift estimates, the study estimates a positive retail impact. The overall estimated retail impact of the pilot could be just under 2% or 1.8%, to be specific, for all businesses in the area. So this equates to an estimated $476 in increased total retail sales over the course of the pilot program. Assuming this program happens up to 8 weeks or 8 street closures, and that's assuming up to 8 days, so that's 4 weekends of street closures, this could mean just under $52,000 per weekend in additional sales for Inglis Place and adjacent businesses. So, but we do want to be clear, this uplift is very dependent on businesses embracing the pedestrianization as an opportunity, participating in the marketing, and looking at this as a benefit to the downtown community as a whole. So for businesses that choose not to promote themselves, not to take part, and not to participate, they're likely not going to see these same uplifts, but our numbers show that based on our best practices, case studies, this is what they can expect to see if they do. Key takeaways that we would like to remind you of is that we must address accessibility and mobility concerns thoughtfully. Just because these were concerns from the public and from businesses does not mean that these respondents do not want this to happen. They just want these concerns to be addressed. Ongoing feedback and engagement with all stakeholders is essential. We need to carefully plan for balancing access and pedestrianization, include effective traffic management and communication as a vital component, and letting everyone know in good time the plan for this. And we should also take into consideration the data that we're presenting today and the data that's in the report to make these decisions that can inform future steps. To conclude, Inglis Place pedestrianization pilot indicates a strong potential for positive transformation. The project aligns with several town policies and plans for more walkable downtown. The public support is strong and businesses are generally supportive as well, particularly when the benefits are clearly communicated and concerns are addressed. Overall, there's a positive estimated economic benefit for businesses and the community. And I just want to say Inglis Place is a unique opportunity as it is a short one-way street. It's surrounded by arterial roads, so it would not be incredibly disruptive. So yeah, I just want to thank everyone, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for your presentation. This is, there'll be no decisions made today. It's strictly for your presentation, and we thank you for that. Council, we do have some questions here. Councillor Graham?
Sorry, Mayor, I just was wondering, Sarah Bell, you had some other things after, but.
Yeah, well, I would like to present on some of the ideas.
Okay,
we have with the
okay.
But if there's any questions, then
Why don't we,
can answer
do
them.
you want to go to a question now? Maybe we'll go to a question now, and then we'll let, if you just can sit there. So Councillor Graham, we'll go ahead, yeah.
I actually have 5 questions, but they're all quick.
Okay.
And I'll preface this with saying these are questions that that have come about because of interactions I've had from some of the business owners on English Street. Our process doesn't allow our community to engage today, so these are questions via me from our businesses, some of the businesses on English Street. So I will start. I have them here. So you've done a great job of telling us about some of the positive impacts on the community, on the business community there when you talk about increased sales and revenue and all of that. Have you considered what are some of the negative impacts that could come about because of the proposed street closures?
Yeah, there's certainly perceived negative impacts, and as this pilot hasn't taken place in Truro yet or anything similar, we can't say that that the negative impacts will be true. There has been instances, most instances that we look at have been successful. The biggest one is there's going to be loss of parking, but if you look at an aerial map of downtown, there's lots of pavement, there's lots of parking. There's, I believe, 34 spots on Inglis Place, and I'm not sure that from the most recent map I've seen that any of them are accessible. Okay. So the biggest concern is loss of parking, and from that stems accessibility challenges. So
I would suggest that a pilot has previously taken place. I do recall at least one time, and there could have been others, where we had a busker festival that took place on English Street. And so we may consider that as a pilot that has happened already. And I don't know if data was collected or not from that event, but.
No, it's okay, you can sit. Thank you so much, Councillor Graham, for that question. I think this is why we're starting with a pilot, because it's a low risk. There is no permanent infrastructure that we're asking or any changes to be made other than allowing us to close the street for one weekend per month during the summer months. The other thing, I was not in the province when the Busker Fest festival happened. I do believe that my predecessor, Jen Mantin, who was the executive director at that time, had to come present to council after that happened. I've heard positive and negative thoughts on that. Some of the businesses that I've talked to, they said that they did see an increase in sales, and there is some personal feedback that I've gotten from people that when that closure happened, somebody discovered that one of the stores had access to brand name of winter boots that they didn't know that Truro carry. So they ended up buying that day over 6 pairs of those shoes, and then they made it, a destination, and they made it known to their family and friends that, hey, did you know that X store is carrying this type of shoes in there? So then they brought more people in to buy in thanks to that Busker Fest happening during that time. I've heard some negative comments as well from some of the businesses that it did impact their sales, mainly because it was a family event, and some of the customers were not able to go into the stores and purchase anything that particular date, but they could have come back. I don't know about that. And the other thing about us proposing this pilot is that if it reveals that there's some challenges, that we can adapt or pivot accordingly, right? If it's not successful, we will have the data to explain why it was not successful, and we can try for future improvements. But if we are successful, then we can open the door to make downtown more vibrant.
I understand that a separate survey was sent to the business owners, and sometimes surveys don't always capture all the pertinent information. I was wondering if there's been an opportunity, or if you've taken the opportunity to meet individually with the business owners on Inglis Street.
Yeah, absolutely. Myself and my board president, who is right here in the gallery with us, and also our marketing and events lead, we did went and visit some of these businesses that we knew were having some concerns regarding this, and we heard from them. We encouraged them to fill out the form, to put in their concerns during this survey, so that way our consultants had a chance to address those, and then giving us some feedback on how we could make sure that we are taking that feedback. But we did went and visit some of those businesses.
Just some of them, but not all of them?
Pretty much all of them, yes.
Okay.
And our previous president, James Ackerman, he also, when we were having these discussions, he also went and visited some business as well.
Okay. These are questions via me to you from some of the shops. Did your research consider the shopping habits of the survey respondents? For example, did the survey respondents indicate how often they shop, eat, or do business on Inglis? So where do the respondents generally park when frequenting Inglis? Because I can see that the community at large would be very supportive of this concept, but more importantly, in my view, is those who currently shop on Inglis. Has that data been captured?
Yes, so one of the questions in our survey asked, what are your primary reasons for visiting Inglis Place or downtown Truro in general? And one of the top reasons was shopping, restaurants, entertainment, fitness, to walk, to meet friends, to meet family. But shopping was certainly the number one choice.
Okay. I wonder about the cities that you've chosen to highlight where street closure has been successful. Spruce Grove has a population of 40,000. Halifax has a population of 500,000. St. John's is close to 300,000. Surely those populations have an effect on the success of a street closure.
Yeah, thank you for that question. When I went into this study, that's what I thought as well. But the research has shown that it doesn't matter if it's a large city or a small town, pedestrianization is good for people and it's good for business. And one of the primary reasons for this is several studies have shown people that are walking, cycling, or using public transit generally spend more than on an annual basis than those that drive their cars to their destinations. I can give some examples. While Halifax is a much larger city, on a neighborhood scale, they have Open Streets Halifax. So if you look at, if you look at that project, they close Agricola Street once a year for open streets. And rather than looking at it as an entire city, you could look at it on a neighborhood scale. Another example, New Glasgow. New Glasgow hosts Art at Night. They close Provost Street for an entire evening, and they have had much success with that. And I know when they started out, they didn't close the street, and now several years later, they do, and they fill it with vendors and people.
So that's after regular shop hours, though, I think, on Provost Street.
It is, yes, that's correct. But it's a local example, and if other small towns aren't doing it, like, do I have the example to show you here today? No, but Truro could be the first and make that decision based on the data we've presented.
I wanted to comment that only 38% of the businesses who submitted their survey were in favor from Inglis Street, and I think that's an important number for us to think about, that there were only 38% from Inglis Street who were in favor. The last question I have is for Mr. Dolter. We are very lucky to have had this presentation this afternoon, and I'm grateful for it because I've learned a lot from it, but it only sort of presents one side of the story. I was wondering what our process will be moving forward, and how a decision will be made, who has the authority to make that decision about the street closure, and wondering if council will have an opportunity to hear from some of the business owners in a formal way on Inglis Street.
Well, I mean, I guess the reason that the Downtown Truro Partnership exists is to represent its members. So this is a decision at the end of the day, or a request coming from the membership. So, I mean, one of the things that, is taken into consideration in the past, if they, typically when we have done street closures involving Inglis, all the shop owners have been surveyed, and we've taken that into consideration. In the past, this hasn't been, and I can be corrected by Mr. McKinnon as the traffic authority, but it's been a staff decision as a street closure, and it's based on having, having the right percentage. And I think we've gone with, 70 or 80% in favor of a closure, that's the position we've taken. But for council, so typically this hasn't been a debate or a decision of council. It's been come forward, and we have in previous summers, I think there have been multiple weekends that we've chosen. I don't know if there's been 4, but there's been more than one, and they've done that in the past. And I don't, as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been any data gathered from those. But for this particular case, I mean, I think council has to consider is what, from the DDP board, what is the recommendation coming from DDP, and then the board is a representation of its members, and obviously not all from Inglis Street. But again, it's one of those decisions. Mr. McKinnon, I mean, in the past when we've closed Inglis, I don't believe that has come to council?
No, it has not.
No, I did not. I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Through DDP.
Yeah. So so it is under the authority of the traffic, under the realm of the traffic authority to do the closure. So it's again, but I guess at the end of the day, Ms. Deloria, I'm kind of wondering what, we'll get to what is the ask of council? What's the DDP asking? The presentation today, this isn't a decision-making meeting, so it would have to come to a public meeting for that. And again, this is something for the summer, and if my watch is correct, it is the end of May. So, I mean, obviously a decision would have to be made to meet a schedule. I think council has to be reassured that if there are closures, that there are events planned that are going to attract people to downtown, that are going to encourage shopping. Typically, I think that's one of the things we've looked at as well too. What are the events? What are the numbers of people likely to be attracted? What provisions are being made? And there's your schedule there. This typically, again, I'm just going with the past. This typically isn't a decision the council will be asked to make. Your representation, the survey, and then the traffic authority would look to look at the viability of it. So unless council wants to be directly involved in the decision. So
I do believe, but my recollection isn't always perfect, there is precedence for when Prince Street was closed, for example, for a street party, and then that small street Forester, I think it, or is it Forester? The one attached to the Nook and Cranny when there was a request made for a patio to be there. I believe we have precedents when a business owner presented their idea, and I believe there were residents at the time given or afforded the opportunity to have input.
That was Louise Street.
Louise, thank you.
Street, yeah.
I do believe residents,
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, typically when the street closures are short term, so if it's for a day or normally less than a day, it's an operational decision and it runs through the traffic authority and we sort out the logistics and operations requirements. The Louise Street one was it was 4 months, I think, that we granted it for through COVID so that they could have an expanded patio. There was some consultation done with the residents on the street at that time, and it ultimately was a decision of council at that time.
yeah, and again, and that was because it was long-term in nature, and in fact, we ended up leasing a portion of the street to the business owner. At that point, he had to actually pay for the use of the street, and it involved rerouting traffic as well, too. So again, that's where that came to council. So it was a little bit of a different circumstance. And the previous, I think there was some block parties there that were also done in that area, but those were for a day or yeah. So there was. I don't believe those came to council. They were closed by us and we by staff under the traffic authority. So yeah, the main one where we have is more of a long-term nature, and that's why there's consultation.
And if I may, we are not looking for a long-term closure. We are we're seeking council's support to move forward with the pilot, which is 1 weekend per month during this summer. And it's not the intention of the board of directors to make this permanent. This has always been just to create a pilot program to see what is the feasibility and how will the community will react to having a pedestrian weekend throughout the summer. So it's never, I just want to make that very clear that we are not looking for a long-term closure nor permanent. So this is just 1 weekend per month and will mainly be Friday and Saturday, which is when our businesses on English and frankly all downtown are operating. And so that is why we're here. And we had to come because we are looking for 1 weekend per month. So it's not just the one closure, it will be for different times, or 3. As we just noted, we are moving very quickly into the summer months. I can't believe we're already in May, but here we are. So that is just, we're looking support to move forward with the pilot. And by us, DTP apply for a grant to be able to do this study and come present the data to the mayor and to the members of the council, and the surveys and consultations with stakeholders, the community, the businesses, not just the ones on English Place, but also all throughout downtown. That's why we decided to do a study rather than just come with our ideas and my board's ideas and what we heard from our community and the businesses present to public works or the town. So we are trying to make an informed decision, and we're coming with data to ask for this support.
Okay. So, Mr. Laurier, I'm going to let you finish your presentation. Deputy Mayor, I see your button there, so just slow and steady. We're just going to get you to hang on, and then I'm going to get right to you, number 1, right after she's done finishing up.
Perfect.
So, great.
So yeah, thank you. Just quickly, just some of the ideas that we have for the weekends that we are proposing to have English as a pedestrian-only closure. It will be a move and groove, which is fun and fitness for all families. We have been talking to some of the businesses that are on English, Hubcycle, creating a little mini bike and tune shop, a race. We have talked and trying to partner up with the rec and with other businesses outside from English to help us create this event. We are proposing the first weekend to be June 13 and 14. So that is pretty much 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now. The second weekend, and all of these dates are tentative, right? It's all based on if it works with everything else that we have going on within the town. Our second weekend will be July 11 and 12. And then for this, we are looking into creating an art zone weekend where we will have chalk art, live painting, an interactive mural wall. And we also aim to showcase local artists and their creations. And all of these weekends, all of these closures that we're trying to do, we're trying to encourage the community, and we are trying to encourage tourists to come and to walk our downtown and to discover the shops and the restaurants and the services that we have. They might not have the chance to do as they're driving by, but by creating pedestrian only, they might park somewhere. We have over 3,000 parking spaces downtown, and if we provide enough signage and wayfinding, we can make sure that they are accessible and viewable for everyone, so that way there is no, I didn't know there was no parking, right? And the third weekend will be a Cheers to Summer, which will be August 22nd and 23rd. And we're trying to gather this towards a 19+ celebration, just to end the summer with it. And again, we're trying to partner up with the Marigold Cultural Center for live local entertainment, in-store activations, and we're just trying to create a fun and festive atmosphere across downtown, not just on English, but just across downtown. So we will work directly with the businesses to help them participate. We will offer marketing support, set up assistance, cross-promotion. And then we do strongly believe that the businesses of English will also benefit from the increased traffic and the buzz that this will cause. So, almost done. So, like Kim presented and like we've talked, other communities have shown that temporary pedestrian zones can evolve into being successful. And I think, if we collaborate, if we are flexible and we keep an open mind, then we can try. And like we mentioned before, it's a low cost. We're not asking for nothing permanent. This is what we're trying. We're starting with a pilot. And, like I mentioned before, the board of directors and DTP, we are not intending and we're not planning to make this a permanent thing. It will just be throughout the summer months. It will be 1 weekend per month. And so that's why we're seeking council support to move forward with this pilot project. That's it.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. Could you go back to we're all familiar with the streets of Toronto, but if you could go back to the streets of Toronto map there, which you showed English Street on. If you could just go back to that slide, I'd appreciate it. There we are, yeah. So I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking I can see the Civic Square there, and that fabulous Civic Square. And then I see in your survey that the people that would participate in the excitement from the general public seems to be for food vendors, live music, etc. And I thought that space there really is, that's what that space is all about during the summer months. And so, yeah, and it's right downtown. We have this incredible space right downtown in which, we have the space for all the activities that you're suggesting take place on English Street. So can you tell me why we wouldn't promote this whole thing, for the downtown area and use the Civic Square rather than close down English Street? That's just a question that comes to mind.
I can go after.
Yes, so several, that was mentioned in the responses in our survey. Thank you for that question.
Can you get a little closer to the mic,
Absolutely.
please? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. That was brought up in our survey, and it was also, I believe, brought up as a solution to not a solution, but rather a suggestion to include Civic Square in the festivities as well. Some businesses from Inglis Place expressed that they would prefer, or that they had concern about pop-up market vendors on the street taking away from their brick and mortar businesses. So a solution was to set up, pop-up vendors in Civic Square. However, Civic Square is a beautiful and a well-used space, but it's not the only space, and this is an opportunity to try something different. Inglis Place really is a unique street in the fact that it's very well suited for pedestrianization and pretty low risk when you look at the short length of it and the fact that it's a one-way street.
Okay, thank you for that.
Could I
Sure,
Could I
absolutely.
elaborate on that answer? It's surrounded by local shops, restaurants, and yes, we do have Civic Square within a few, with a walkable distance. Pretty much every event that the Downtown Toronto Partnership puts on happens on Civic Square. And if we are trying to attract the amount of people that we are hoping to visit our community, then for me to come here and ask to shut down Prince Street, that will be a harder ask. So Inglis Place is suited for this pilot, and as well, the survey feedback show that Inglis Place is one of the top reasons people visit downtown. So I think we are building on that strength. We are building on the fact that people are coming to visit our downtown and they go to Inglis Place because it's a beautiful street. It is a short one-way street as well. It is already pedestrian friendly. And like I said, it just makes it logistical feasible to close it temporarily without disrupting major traffic.
Okay, thank you for that. My next question has to do with marketing. To me, you have a population of 15,000 in the town, and then another maybe 35 or whatever in the county. I'm not sure, but it all adds up to, let's say, 40,000 or whatever. But those people come, as your surveys showed, come daily, weekly into the downtown area. But I'm looking for new customers. I think the potential here is to advertise this into Halifax or whatever, or beyond Colchester County. So I don't see anything in your study that talks about a marketing aspect of marketing this, on the airwaves to Halifax, saying, this Saturday, this is happening in Toronto. Come and shop, and we have exciting shops, and we have something for the kids, and you can go up to the top and do some bike riding, come down and eat at a restaurant, and whatever. So a whole marketing aspect. I don't see that in your presentation. Is there a reason?
So in one of throughout this study, one of the findings was that marketing and communications will be key to make sure that this pilot is a success. And this is where our relationship with some of our stakeholders and our counterparts will come in hand. The Chamber of Commerce is right here. They fully support this idea. And then we will rely on them and other partners to help us with spreading the message, right? We are very fortunate as well. I'm part of the board of directors for the Downtown Atlantic's oh my God, I completely lost so we are the Downtown Atlantic's Canada. I'm part of the board of directors, and in talking to them, they will also make sure that they help us spread
that's
this
great.
message to make sure that everybody knows, because this is what we're trying to do. We are trying to attract visitors to come to our downtown.
I knew you were doing this. I just didn't hear how.
Yes. But yeah, we are on top of it. And thanks to this study also, we are very well aware that marketing and communications will play a huge role on making this a success.
Right. I have visited other street closure places, I think of St. John's, New Brunswick, et cetera. And the vendors there, it shifts. There's a shift. there's a skew towards certain type of vendors, certain types of shops when you start closing down streets relative to other kind of businesses, like professional businesses, maybe not so much. I don't know. This is beyond my understanding. But, you know, exclusive shops, not so much. Maybe more, you know, public, you know, a place to have a beer and a sandwich and listen to some entertainment and maybe, you know, knickknacks and these sort of things I would see as being more that kind of thing. And so it skews businesses. And so I'm concerned about that too, because it does put pressure. It benefits some businesses more than others, some types of businesses more than others. That's what I think. I don't know if that's correct thinking or not. But
Yeah, so I've had conversation with some of our services that are not necessarily retail or restaurants, and they are on board with this program, with the pilot. They do feel that having the community visit, they will get discovered. They will know that there's services that they're being offered in there as well. And let's say somebody is looking for a lawyer, you know, there's partisan law right there at the corner of English Place that they might not be able to know that they exist already. And we have barber shops that are located right at the corner of English Place that also probably newcomers or other people that are visiting downtown, they are not aware that they exist.
Right.
So we do strongly believe that businesses that are not retail or in the food services will benefit from the exposure as well.
Right. Okay. And that's where that marketing comes in and bringing new customers to Truro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then my last question is street security. I'm afraid we live in a very strange period of time, and I'm a little concerned about street security, et cetera.
Yeah.
You mass people onto a street, and And so I was just wondering the thoughts on that. Is there, I know this is not but perhaps Mr. McKinnon, you could just address that will be, if this goes ahead, that there will be some consideration to a more robust security for the street.
Not sure how robust you have in mind, but we would, that would be the only involvement of traffic authority, is to make sure the closure is done correctly and safely.
Right, yeah, but you understand, without adding to my comments, the time and
traditionally we use barricades for street closures. Now, if we want real high security, we probably would need Jersey barriers at both ends of the street, but then you also need to be able to make them movable. If we have an emergency and need a fire truck to go through. So we need to strike.
I'll leave that with your expertise, but you do understand my concern.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Councillor Talbot, please.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for the presentation. I think it's excellent. I think it hits a lot of buttons in terms of what this council is trying to do, encouraging people to use the downtown. We're talking active transportation. We're approving building permits and making concessions in terms of parking, because we're assuming that people will walk the downtown. So it makes a lot of sense to me from that perspective. Also, I've lived in a number of jurisdictions, and all of them have had this in one form or other. Now, obviously, I don't want to see businesses lose money, and I don't profess to understand financial modeling. That's not my strong suit. But you're suggesting that there is an increase. I think that's something that we'd have to track very carefully, in case you come back next year looking for 4 weekends. But based on what you've presented, unless the chief of police or the chief of the fire department or the director of public works would say, here's a big reason why we can't do this, I would certainly support it. And the last thing I'll say, and it's kind of, Mr. Dolder's already said it, I mean, this is your baby. If you come to us with the backing of your board, I mean, unless we had some real extraneous reason why we didn't want to do this, I don't know why we would say no. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, as mayor, I want happy merchants and I want happy residents. I want everybody to be happy and I want everyone to spend lots of money on English Place. So I'm just trying to visualize. Are you thinking of, is your vision to have like little bistro tables set the whole length of the street? I'm, you know, and I am going to echo concern of always on this side of safety, you know, if the street was closed off, to make sure somebody wasn't going to try to drive down that street. And also, as Director McKinnon said, if there was a fire, God forbid, we have to make sure that our emergency vehicle could get down there. So are you visioning sidewalk sales, merchants being able to put their wares outside, engagement with the a bistro kind of environment down there? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. And I did put in on all of your desk a logistics and operation plans, and the last page shows kind of what we're envisioning, which is having some bistro sets, having our merchants take their racks outside, having pop-up sales, tents, making it vibrant, making it inviting. We did hear from some of the community that after COVID, they're looking for this. They want to come out. They want to be sociable again. They want to be able to walk freely. And I had a conversation with the chief of fire, with Chief Curry, regarding a little bit of, you know, the safety regarding this. We are living in some strange days right now. And this is where the collaboration and communication will come from the town and DTP and our members. And I feel like we will just encourage police and fire to be a little bit more aware, a little bit more active, you know, just instead of maybe doing one patrol per day, maybe do 2 or 3, just to make sure that, you know, we are targeting that safety point. But yeah, we do envision having it being vibrant, having live music, having some buskers, and just bringing the community together.
I read your report thoroughly. My question was more the envisionment for those that are watching.
Yes.
And so they know what your vision is.
Yeah.
Councillor McGrath, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you both for the information, the presentations. I've always thought that pedestrian malls, everyone that I've been to, has been a raging success. And I come from St. John's, Newfoundland, so George Street, I'm familiar with. The Water Street one, less so. That happened after I left. But I have a question about some survivorship bias, I guess. Do you have any information on places that have attempted to do a pedestrianization like this and failed? We have lots of success cases. And I should clarify that my primary employment is as project manager, so risk mitigation is a primary part of what I do, and these are the type of questions that I tend to ask. Do we have any information about, you know, failed open street or pedestrianized projects?
If I can remember correctly, I believe I came across one study, and I think it was Government Street in Victoria, British Columbia. But the difference there is they were looking at permanent pedestrianization. So that meant like the physical infrastructure, and there's also there's a lot going on in downtown Victoria. There's several main streets that people seek out to visit, not just one. So I think that is quite a large difference with Truro. Not to say that Inglis Place is the only street-based destination, but certainly when you look at the historic buildings and the consistency of the facade and then the shops and services available compared to adjacent streets where you know, they're very much broken up by parking lots. I would say that there's not a whole lot of risk of that happening here.
Excellent.
And it's different because it's not permanent.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I'm data driven. I have lots of anecdotal evidence about successful street closures. I've been to some of the open streets in Agricola, packed with people. 3 minutes after the barriers come down, it is barren. There's nobody there. So the pedestrianization, I've always felt, yes, absolutely vibrant, lively. Even if people aren't always spending the money, it gets people out. And I've read some studies where you need to see a business sometimes up to 11 or 19 times to be able to see, oh, that business is there. Like, I look in the gallery and I recognize at least 5 business owners in here. right, that I could call on by name. Or business associates anyway, maybe not the owners, but certainly people who work in the stores, and I could call on them by name. So I spend a fair bit of time on Inglis, and I always travel there by bike or on foot. I don't drive in this town if I can help it at all, because I'm so far young and healthy, and this is the way I prefer to get around. So I think it's going to be successful, but I want to ask those questions. When we talk about security, again, some strange times. There are a lot of instances where vehicles have been used as weapons. So if these are Jersey barriers, temporary, as long as they can be moved for fire, or an ambulance, or if even access from the many side alleys and parking lots, I don't think it's unworkable. I did want to ask, again, about the types of shop. Does that have an impact to the success of these types of projects? Right, like the deputy mayor, I believe, had asked, is there a predilection toward one type of business or another where these are successful, or are you seeing a lot of it everywhere? And I think you said it's a lot, but I was just wondering if you could go into a little more detail for me.
So we do. I think that's one of the attractions of English Place. There is a variety of different shops and services that are there. I believe we can encompass pretty much everything that we have within the downtown on English Place. Not to say that, English Place is the only street that exists in our downtown, but we do have restaurants, we have retail, we have some services as well in there. So we do strongly feel that it will cater a variety of customers to come and spend their time and shop in there, because it's not just retail and it's not just restaurants. It encompasses a lot of different services as well.
Right, and then when we talk about all the positive impact to the businesses, when the suggestion is made to hold some of these festivals at Civic Square, great idea. I was at an event at Civic Square this morning. There's a lot happens at Civic Square. So those events at Civic Square drive business downtown. If we were saying, we're going to have a food truck rally, where are those food trucks coming from? Are they locally owned food trucks? Do those events in Civic Square drive as much business to, say, English Place or the Prince Street businesses as having however many hundred people can fit into that roughly 180 meters, would drive to local business?
So when we do, some of the food trucks that do attend our events are locally owned as well. And some of them have a brick and mortar restaurant in there, and they also have a food truck. So we do try to be inclusive to what we already have and to pay preference to our local businesses. I will not be able to give you any data if the events that we have on Civic Square are drawing attention to English Place or not. I could tell you for experience that when I moved into the town, and I went to an event, I actually came in October 2021, and it was when it was happening, the Harvest Festival. So I went to Civic Square because there was music, we have the scarecrows up, and I did walk. I walked towards Commercial Street, and I walked towards the bank, towards the other street. I can't remember what street is that. And I did discover a lot of shops, right? I went to English, and I saw that they have different things. So for personal experience, I can say that I've been to Civic Square for an event, and I do venture. And I did venture and discover different ones, and I actually made purchases, not that day, but I made purchases in the near future.
Great. And then finally, you said you're not planning for permanent. Why not? Are we not expecting, based on the data that I see, it sounds like this should be successful based on the study. So I understand the thought of, okay, well, this is a pilot. But is there no thought to, if this pilot is successful, are we going to continue it? Are we going to expand to it? Are we, as was mentioned earlier, are we going to move to 4 weekends instead of 3? Are we going to move to more permanent? And on that sort of related, In the Ms. Molyneux, you said that in your presentation there, 8 days over 4 weekends. Now, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of the businesses on Inglis Place are closed on Sundays. Is there any potential for those business owners to open on a Sunday if they so wished? Or if there are going to be no businesses open, can you do more Sunday closures? Because I think we are only limited by our imaginations at the events that could happen down there. Like I see 180 meters long. That's a little longer than I thought it would have been, but that's perfect for the Truro Lions to host some sort of urban track meet, do a 100-meter dash or 110-meter hurdles. Yes. Bring out the roller skates. You get the roller derbies out doing some things. Like there's so many options that could happen. And even if it's not a big event, even just a safe place for families to go, bring children on bicycles, learn how to ride. I mean, I think there's really a lot of potential there. And I want to know that this pilot is maybe leading to something. Like if it is successful, are we looking to the future on how we can expand this? And then those plans get shelved if it turns out to be an unsuccessful pilot.
Yeah, absolutely. In talking to our businesses and then in conversations with the board, it's not our intent to make it permanent. There is not that desire from our business community to have this made permanent. Mm-hmm. So that is something that we're hearing. And it's not our intent to make it permanent. If this pilot goes well, we could be looking into maybe making it seasonal and to maybe making it just 1 month, mm-hmm. 2 months. Like you said it yourself, Councilor McGrath, the possibilities are endless. However, it's not the desire of our business community, of our members, to have this made permanent. Whether it's a huge success, they might change their minds in the future. Unfortunately, I cannot predict that. But as it stands right now, like we have no desire to make this permanent. We do have a desire to see it be successful and to see an influx of people coming in and spending their money downtown. Supporting our local economy. And, like I've said it before, I've been standing before you many times within the 4 years that I've been into my role. And I just want to see Truro grow. I don't want to be a passing town. I want to be the town. I want to be the destination that, the tourists come and they're like, oh, we're just driving through. No, we are going. This is where we're going to be. And, I believe we are positioning ourselves to be that, to be a small town but mighty, mm-hmm. and that has a lot to offer, that even for our local community, there is a lot of options for them to do during the weekends. As for our businesses to be open on Sundays, that is something that we are absolutely in discussions with them. If it makes sense for them to stay open on Sundays, let's go ahead and do it. Right? We cannot impose on them to be open on Sundays, no. Yeah. But we're definitely hearing and listening to that feedback.
For sure. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you both for your presentation today. Seeing no further questions. Councillor Graham, late button. Okay.
Quick one. Just wondering if the survey is the results, if that's available now.
Yeah, so we are going to make this available tomorrow. We just wanted to present it to you first, give you that respect, and then we are going to make the full study available for the public and our businesses tomorrow.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Dolter.
Yeah, just so we understand. So are you coming back to council with a request, or is this you just presenting the information? So, okay.
So then our ask, we're just seeking support to move forward with the pilot project.
Okay. So from a process perspective, I assume there's going to be submitting a request to the traffic authority to close the street for those 2 days.
Yes.
Okay. So just to answer the previous question, I guess, of the councillor, sorry, I'm losing my voice. So this isn't going to be a decision for council, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So it'll go through the process that we have in place for street closure through the traffic authority. And I guess from a staff perspective is, we look at the technical requirements for the street closure and we'll support it from there. But I guess from, in defense of council too, I encourage the DDP board to listen to its members and the members to engage with the board as well too, to make sure their voices are clear, because obviously, council wants to support and staff want to support, the best interests of the businesses in place. And certainly, we don't want to get ourselves stuck in between the businesses, the DDP, and the board, and council. So clearly, the process is you've done the survey, and certainly, encourage you to submit the request for the street closure, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation today.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, we're moving on to item 4 on our agenda today, strategic planning. Mr. Dolter, can you please proceed?
I think I got to do it from down there.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't control it. So, thank you, Madam Mayor. Enjoy looking at council from this angle. I think this is good. This is a little bit of a monumental event because we have done strategic planning in the past and strategic priorities. For the most part, we just submitted them or we put them up on our website once they were done. So we thought it was important with the process that we recently went through for the 3-year plan that we've put together for, and that council will be asked to approve on the 2nd of June, to kind of go through that with council again and the public. Certainly like to thank, in putting this together, the involvement of council and senior staff, and certainly the consultant that we use in this case, can't remember the exact name of Mr. Dubé's company, but Jacques Dubé, who came in and facilitated this and has also done some work in other areas of the province as well too. So I'm just going to go through the key points that are in the strategic plan, and I won't roll the mice because it doesn't work. So the town strategic plan for 2025 to 2028 really outlines what the community's vision, mission, and values are, while establishing the clear pillars and the strategic outcomes and actions that are going to guide the work that we're going to do over the next 3 years. So one of the key pieces of what we put together is we want a document that is high level, but also gets into some of the activities that we're going to be conducting in order to get and meet the concepts that are within the plan. So to put the plan together, really it's building blocks that puts it together. We look at the council's strategic priorities, and the plan has to provide the overall direction to guide the decisions, projects, and initiatives that the town is going to undertake for the next 3 years. It's got to speak to the capital and the operational planning, and the strategic plan is integrated into our annual capital and operational plans. So as we're looking at what we're going to do, what we're going to budget for, and our capital projects, it goes back to the strategic plan for that guidance. And for departmental work plans and core service delivery, each department puts together its work plans for the specific steps that are needed to advance strategic objectives. And while we're still delivering on all our core activities, which we all know are the roads, the water, sewer, solid waste, fire policing, and planning, people see us doing every day, which is the core of what we do. So vision statements and mission statements are great. They give us some of the the general overall themes of where we're going. So for the town itself, the vision is to aspire to be a just and vibrant community with a thriving economy and a sustainable environment. And everything we do is supposed to be focused towards that. So from a mission perspective, the town will provide visionary, responsible, community-driven, and open-minded leadership to ensure the best possible quality of life for all. And for council, that's the high-level mission that we embark on every day. And again, we try to live every day. So, community goals. Again, as we go through each step here, it gets a little bit more granular. So the community goals serve as a foundation of shaping the policies and guiding strategies, the strategic priorities. And the ones that you see here were developed through the 2023 community plan document that council's approved, and they're reviewed by council in 2025 as part of our strategic planning process. And these goals are really central to our long-term direction. And again, I won't read all of those, but again, it's all about us being inclusive, vibrant, and just a great place to live overall. So again, encourage members of the public, once the plan is approved, to go through those and they can understand what the community goals really are. Or again, you can consult the municipal planning documentation that includes these as well in some very good detail. Another good piece of work. So the pillars and outcomes and actions that we're looking at. So the town of Truro has adopted really 4 pillars within the strategic plan. They're the foundation of the plan, and they help us focus our efforts and outcomes and actions. Each pillar has a set of outcomes and associated actions. So again, it's great to have these high-level things, but again, we want to have what the outcomes and what we need to do to make them happen. And these really highlight the priorities that will form the basis of our operational capital plans as we move through into 2028. So I'll just go through those pillars. Economic prosperity. We want a thriving economy characterized by robust innovation, diversified industries, equitable wealth distribution, where individuals and businesses are empowered to grow, communities benefit from sustainable long-term prosperity. And strategic outcomes from that are economic growth, talent attraction and retention, and strengthening our unique advantages. And even the presentation that was previously given from the DDP is an indication of one of those things that council needs to be able to support. And we don't do this all on our own. We have other organizations in town that help us to support the economic prosperity of the community, and that's one of the key pieces in us working with them. Leadership in governance. A governance framework that is transparent, accountable, inclusive to promote effective decision-making. It encourages civic participation and safeguards the rule of law to ensure that the interests of all stakeholders are represented and protected. And the objectives here, and something I think we do quite well in most cases, community engagement, trust and transparency. The fact that people can watch this meeting right now is an indication of that. We strive for operational efficiencies. Regional partnerships and collaborations is a key piece of what we do. And we prioritize our municipal spending. And as council's recently gone through the budget process, that's not always an easy process, but is very key to our success. Sustainable environment. A balanced, healthy environment where natural resources are responsibly managed, ecosystems are preserved, and climate resilience is prioritized, fostering a community where both human and ecological well-being are safeguarded for generations to come. And the outcomes here is reduction and mitigation, where we're looking at, trying to reduce or control some of the factors that affect our sustainability. We look at adaptation and resiliency on how we do developments, for example. Civic engagement and education, when we educate people, even things like, wildfire education that we're trying to do, and that safety that we're trying to embed in the community. And then overall sustainable development. And every project that we look at that comes to council, comes to the Truro Planning Advisory Committee, sustainable development is one of the keys to that. And finally, community wellness. We want a community where every individual has access to quality social opportunities and infrastructure, ensuring people live in a safe, nurturing communities that promote physical, emotional, and social health for all. And the strategic outcomes here obviously are safety and resiliency, integrated mobility, involved and connected community, inclusive and welcoming community, and an affordable community. So again, council's working towards different initiatives with staff in order to make all these occur. You know, even, you know, our recreational programs, the recreation facilities that we provide, and again, I will boldly argue that we provided for the region, not just the town, in some of those facilities. So again, and we're working towards, with our partners, again, creating a welcoming community with, that everybody feels that they have a place, and affordability as new units come on. You know, I know that is a focus of council, and we'll continue to work towards that and make a community where everybody can find a place to live. So the next steps in this, again, because this is a living document, is again we'll finalize the plan approval, so that'll come to council at the June Public Council meeting for approval of the plan. We'll begin the implementation. It's ongoing. In fact, we haven't waited for approval. We are working on some of these things, and the plan itself contains some of the timelines we're looking at, some of the initiatives. We'll present the strategic plan on the town's website and social media platforms once it's approved by council. And then we're going to track progress and report biannually. So again, we'll come to council, and I've talked to the directors about linking their activities back to the plan, so we can sit down with council and report back to council and the public on how we're doing on some of these initiatives and how things are going. So again, you know, I think it's a good document. I'm quite pleased with the results in the presentation, and hopefully council will feel the same on the 2nd of June and approve it. And again, if there's any questions about the plan or any of the process, I'm open to those now. And if not, we can hold those for the 2nd of June when we do the presentation. It's up to council on that.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. We look forward to that coming up at the next public council meeting, so thank you very much. Are there any questions today for Mr. Dalton about the plan? We're going to save it all till June. Okay, seeing none, I'd say thank you very much, and come back and join me up here. We're now moving on to item number 5 on our agenda today, and it is EDIA, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. And our presenter today is somebody I've come to know quite well and enjoy seeing almost daily, is our coordinator, Nikki Gillis. So welcome, Nikki, to the big table, and take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, and thank you for setting up my presentation. Councilor Dolter, I was very confused how I was going to do that.
I'm not a counselor.
Sorry, CAO. Still learning, you guys. Please give me some grace. Thank you for the correction. Before I start, I'd love to talk about the concepts of decentering and for crunchy conversations. So the concept of decentering when we talk about EDIA is where you take your own perspectives and you put them aside to look at things in the view of somebody else from you. So whether that's the person of color such as myself and how I'm unconsciously scared when police drive up behind me, or if we're looking at accessibility and what accessibility would look like for somebody in a wheelchair, it's putting your perspectives aside to understand that things might look different for other people. As for crunchy conversations, I love this word, but it describes situations or conversations that are uncomfortable but are needed to move progress forward. Whether they're uncomfortable or awkward, they're necessary for progress. So we all know what EDIA is, equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. So I'll go through a quick review of this. But when equity, we're talking about the ways in we make things fair for everyone. This is one of my favorite images because we can clearly see that there are 4 individuals with different needs and different accessibility requirements, all given the same bike in the first image. Unfortunately, only one person is able to use it properly, and this is equality. When we think of equity, we all would like everyone to be able to move forward in the same way, but they may need different things. So for the second example, we see somebody who is wheelchair bound now having a bike that works for them. We see somebody with tall for their bike, they have one that's proper. The third person was doing well from the beginning, so they're continuing to do well. And then for the fourth was a child in an adult bike, and now we see them in a child bike. So now we can see they all are accessed the same thing, but in different ways. When we speak about diversity, it's all the ways we are different. So it's the ways in which we differ, including race, ethnicity, gender, age, disability, sexual orientation, education, and more. And it's about recognizing these differences and valuing them for how they are and how we can learn from them. Inclusion. So this is one of my favorite images as well, but it's including everyone's thoughts at the table and having their voices at the table. And it's an approach of establishing environments where any person or group can feel welcomed, supported, respected, and recognized. And then accessibility. Accessibility ensures that everyone, regardless of their abilities or circumstances, can fully participate in and benefit from all aspects of society, and it involves designing environments, systems, and processes that remove physical, social, and systemic barriers, which fosters equal access to opportunities, services, and information for everyone. So why does this matter for municipal government? So, as many of us know, municipalities across Nova Scotia are currently advancing accessibility and equity and anti-racism planning, which was required under provincial legislation. We are also advancing equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility, which promotes fair access, belonging, and respectful treatment for all residents. And EDIA initiatives support human rights legislations, strengthen community trust, and foster inclusive, accessible public services. Something I like to always say is EDIA is not a checkbox. It's about making our policies, spaces, and services reflect the people we serve, and this is never linear. So what I've been doing. So the role I have within Town of Truro and the Village of Bible Hill is strategic direction. So I advance EDIA across all municipal functions, inclusive planning, which includes reviewing and developing policies, implementing initiatives from revised plans, and providing training. For guidance, I act as a resource on EDIA practices and collaboration. So partnering not only with our staff and our council, but as well as community groups to see how we can all collectively make Truro feel more welcome. And I've also been working on equity and anti-racism planning with our consultant, as well as worked with the accessibility planning on that as well. Part of my mandate for the last 6 months has been collectively trying to come up with something the Town of Truro and Council can all have a collaborative mandate on. And I spent one-on-ones with all senior staff to see what everyone was believing and thinking. And something that continually was brought up was continuing to build relationships across all departments to support accessibility and equity goals. Also collaboratively identifying EDIA priorities, which aligned with the accessibility and equity and anti-racism plans. This involved me reviewing our previous plan and bringing up all of the points to our senior staff to ensure that we were all on the same page and how I could support moving those initiatives forward prior to starting our new initiatives. I've also been supporting departments in embedding EDIA into their day-to-day operations, communications, and service delivery to understand this isn't just a one-and-done checklist. It's something we should be continually thinking about in all of our processes. I've been strengthening coordination between EDIA work in departmental planning, onboarding, and policy development. And I've currently been working on establishing regular check-ins with our senior staff to align all our progress and our next steps. So what I've been doing as well is we sent out a survey to all of our non-union staff, and we had 26 people confirm that they were able to participate. And the goal was to understand current awareness as well as comfort levels and training needs. The results were most staff were pretty familiar with EDIA and felt it was very relevant to their goals. But within training gaps, we only had 10 participants say they'd actually participated in EDIA training. So what does this look like moving forward, and what courses would we like to start with? And I also I listed a few courses that I thought would be beneficial and asked them to prioritize. And we saw unconscious bias, cultural competency, supporting invisible disabilities, and intersectionality and inclusive language as the top 4 trainings that people in the Town of Truro would like to see first and foremost. We also saw there was accessibility gaps where concerns were raised about building access, digital tools, and public facilities. So what does this look like moving forward as we implement accessibility planning? And my suggestions for this were looking to more inclusive hiring and what that would look like within our practices. Having an EDIA resource hub, so a quick document that speaks to languages, what plain language is, what does a typical EDIA look like for certain roles, so everyone has a resource to go to. And then greater representation and leadership, whether that means we're inviting more people to the table to speak on matters we may not be familiar with, or we're looking to outsource to have bigger conversations, as well as increased communication and having that sense of transparency. The goal of this survey was to understand where everyone was sitting and how we can then cater our trainings to be better suited for us. We worked on an accessibility plan. I started partway through the planning, but we worked to create a new plan with the municipality of Colchester, Bible Hill, Stewiacke, and Tatamagouche, and we worked with Left Turn, Right Turn. Everyone on council here was actually part of the joint council session where it was presented, and it was well attended, I'd like to say. And the plan includes regional commitments around buildings, transportation, communications, public engagement, and employment. And a 3-year implementation plan was created by myself for the town of Truro and presented to senior staff this week. So we have an idea, as it's a regional plan, how it would affect town of Truro. We are also still currently working on our equity and anti-racism plan. So as many of you here, we were working with not only ourselves, but the Village of Bible Hill, Town of Stewiacke, and the County of Colchester. We hired the Waking of the Unconscious from Toronto with Nicole McKinney, who visited us in the first week of April to conduct interviews with key staff and community members. We also held a public engagement session in Bible Hill on April 4th, where we had up to 75 people with representation from all of our municipalities. Nicole is currently completing final interviews, and a draft plan is expected by the end of May. And once this has been reviewed, a draft will be shared with staff and accompanied by a presentation from Nicole to council prior to our approval. I also participate on multiple committees, which also gains more knowledge in EDIA space within the town, but also our broader knowledge. One of them is the African Nova Scotian Community Strategy Committee. So we are currently reviewing our terms of reference to include my role as a non-voting member. We've also invited Chief McNeil to discuss recruiting a diverse police cadet and what that would look like to gain more perspectives, and ongoing work to improve diverse representation and visibility. I also sit on the Diversity Advisory Committee, and we are currently reviewing the application process for new members to enhance inclusivity. One of the members is somebody from Millbrook that I'm excited to have join us. We're also discussing strategies to strengthen diverse hiring practices across the municipality. And as previously stated, we are inviting Chief McNeil to also present to see how we can best engage diverse communities on diverse hiring. I also sit on two other committees. This is for our broader EDIA knowledge just outside of the town as well. So the North Shore Local Immigration Partnership, which works on promoting equity and inclusion in local municipal practices. We are currently working on enhancing representation and underrepresented newcomer communities, and we're collaborating on a myth-busting campaign to challenge common misconceptions about newcomers. Lastly, the Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee, which advises on accessibility priorities and policy recommendations, supporting compliance with accessibility standards across the region, and encourages public engagement and providing input on barrier reduction strategies. This committee was a big part of our accessibility plan, and we actually presented to them as well to ensure that all of their voices were heard in the plan. So how does my role overall support progress? Within equity and diversity, I identify and address systemic barriers in municipal policies and public engagement to ensure fair access. Diversity, promote representation of diverse voices in leadership, decision-making processes, and community collaboration. With inclusion, it's creating a culture where every employee and community member feels valued, respected, and empowered to contribute. And accessibility, eliminate physical, communication, and systemic barriers in municipal programs, services, and infrastructures. Something I wanted to point out is these conversations are crunchy, they're uncomfortable, they make people feel awkward, but something that came out of our April 4th open house was that many people came up to me and said they've never felt comfortable talking about their discrimination, they've never felt comfortable talking about their race, but in that moment they did because they felt it was safe and they could have these crunchy conversations and they knew people were decentering to look at things from their point of view. So while they are uncomfortable and it may make you feel awkward, they are moving progress forward in a way. So my vision and next steps. I would love to see a municipal workforce that reflects the diversity of our community, and equitable programs and accessible services for all residents, a culture of inclusion where everyone feels respected and valued. So our next steps moving forward is implementing that 3-year accessibility plan with 1 year focused on internal readiness and training, finalize the regional equity and anti-racism plan, and prepare for staff rollout and engagement. I'm now moving forward with sending the survey to union employees to garner further feedback to see what gaps there may be there. and build alignment with departments to embed EDIA into everyday municipal operations. And to move this vision forward, we'll need to stay in dialogue, even when it's uncomfortable. EDIA work is full of crunchy conversations, and it only works when we stay at the table together. So I do invite everyone here to be part of that process, to be open to asking those hard questions, and to help embed EDIA values into your day-to-day decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have some questions. So, the Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm asking to be excused. I have the Nova Scotia Association of Police Governments spring meeting is about to start, and I'm the representative, so I need to attend that. So I'm asking.
You are certainly excused. You get one pass per year, and this is it. Yes, you're excused.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great question.
Councillor Talbot.
Yes, thank you, Nikki, for the presentation, and thank you for all the good work you do. I know you've already made an impact in the community, and particularly in my community. But since you started off with this term crunch conversation, I never heard it, but I'm going to crunch the room. Okay? It's a sad moral statement that all the initiatives that you've outlined that need to be done have to be legislated in 2025. Where's goodwill?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. That's a very good point to make, and so true. Thank you. I don't see any other questions. I just want to say that you are valued, and you are making such a difference, and I want to thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Council, this now brings us to the end of our Committee of the Whole meeting for May 22nd, 2025. I want to thank everyone who's presented today and those who were in the chamber. Our next Committee of the Whole meeting is Thursday, June 26th at 4 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and be kind to each other and to our town. This meeting is now adjourned.